Under One Roof MTL, hosted by Robin Flynn, featuring mortgage brokers Fred and Martin and real estate expert LJ Aguinaga. Presented by Fred and Martin Mortgages and LJ Realties.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Under One Roof MTL, where we are demystifying home ownership one episode at a time. My name is Robin Flynn, joined in studio, as always, by LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties. Good afternoon, LJ.
How you doing?
Pretty good. Also joined by Fred Pichette and Martin Spalding of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Gentlemen, how are you both doing today?
Very well. And you, Robin?
Very good. Martin?
Yeah. Hey, Robin.
Happy to be with you. We have so much to get to this week that the very first topic we're going to get to, I almost forgot to include in our show schedule this week. Martin was like, Robin, the Bank of Canada's new interest rate announcement is this week. I was like, oh my goodness, because there's so much else going on. But yeah, Wednesday, April 16th. Martin, what are you expecting? Things are still a little unstable.
So I'm going to talk about how I get to my predictions. So the things to watch that could impact the Bank of Canada's decision. First of all, job numbers. So job losses in March could lead to a cut in the Bank of Canada's overnight rate to stimulate investment, to stimulate the economy. However, we're seeing inflation rising, which could lead to an increase in the overnight rate. Now, if we swing over to the bond market, yields are rising. And when yields rise, this could lead to an increase in fixed rate mortgages. And actually, Fred and I saw an increase at the end of last week. We saw them slowly ticking up. We feel this is temporary, and we think that fixed rates will continue to decline. So what are the pundits and what are the experts are saying? 50-50 chance that there will be a cut. But I love this expression. A firefighter has never been criticized for using too much water to put out a fire. So the Bank of Canada will not be criticized for making too many cuts in these uncertain and volatile times. So my prediction, based on all that, we will see another 25 basis cut on Wednesday at 10 a.m.
Fred, do you agree with that? I remember after the last rate cut, everybody sort of predicted, okay, but that's going to be it for a while. But things have changed. So do you expect another cut?
For this time, Robin, I agree with Martin. I think we're going to get a 0.25 basis point cut from the Bank of Canada. Also, many economists are forecasting that the overnight rate will go from 2.75 to 2% by the end of the year, which is, I think we're going to get many more other cuts.
Wow. We're talking like COVID level low interest rates now at this point, aren't we?
I wouldn't say COVID, but I would say the variable rate will potentially go down by another 0.50 to 0.75. I wouldn't be surprised if it's by 1%.
So LJ, let's say you've got a variable rate mortgage, as I do. Are you converting it to a fixed rate mortgage at this point, or are you going to hold tight for a while? Are there more cuts, do you think?
Ooh.
There's a lot of instability in the market right now, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen next. We saw it last week with the stock market. Every day Trump announced something new, which changed tariffs, we saw 1 year's worth of gains in the stock market in one day. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday last week. So with all the instability, do I think we've hit the floor of fixed rates? I don't believe so. I mean, the CMB was around 2.5%, so that's really low right now. So anyone doing commercial refinances is really excited about that. I think that there's probably still a bit more room in terms of going down. I mean, we haven't even settled our Canadian election right now, which is going to impact things in one way or another. So I'd probably hold off a little bit more because we expect the variable rate to continue going down right now. So take advantage of the continuous drops on that rate and then see where kind of the dust settles by the end of the year.
So in addition to the Bank of Canada's announcement on the 16th, we also have two federal leaders debates this week. The French debate on the 16th, the English debate is on the 17th. And then the advance polls open this weekend, and the actual election is on the 28th. So we are in the home stretch of a very close and tiny, short election cycle. All 4, 5, 6, however you look at it, I think there's 90 candidates running in Pierre Poilievre's riding of Carleton. There's a million different candidates out there, but they're all proposing various things on housing. Liberals are proposing to bring back the multi-unit rental building program, or the MURB, that offers a tax break to builders on taxable income in the first few years for building leasing units. So there's a bunch of different things. We've been talking about it for the last few weeks, so make sure you educate yourselves. I imagine it'll come up at some point during the debate, at least one of the debates. They will talk about housing. So yeah, French debate on the 16th, English debate on the 17th. Pay attention. What are you hoping? Do you think they're going to talk about housing at all during the debates, or is it going to be all Trump, all tariffs all the time?
I think that if they really want to capture the Canadian population, they're going to have to talk about housing. I think that's one of the hottest topics. I think that people are still concerned with the price of homes and what we're going to do to resolve our supply issue right now. And I think that that's top of mind. So if they don't touch on housing, I think it's a hugely missed opportunity for all the candidates.
Also, I would say inflation. People are worried about the inflation with the numbers that came out last month.
Well, just a few moments ago, Fred, you looked up at the TV and noticed the latest Nanos poll. 66% of Canadians are worried about heading into a recession right now. So these are concerns for people, right? It's probably a little bit higher than that.
I mean, aren't we in one?
But aren't we in a recession right now?
I think people are afraid to use the word, right?
Well, and are we in an election cycle? I mean, it just doesn't feel. There's so much noise right now that it doesn't feel like we're about to elect a new prime minister to lead this country and to battle what's going on, not only internally, but to battle what's going on south of the border. It just doesn't feel like your normal election cycle. And I agree with LJ. I mean, the home issue, the lack of supply, the fact that we're not going to get out of this in any time soon, I think it would be a missed opportunity if it wasn't brought up during the debates.
Despite the fact that things are relatively uncertain right now, condo sales are up in Montreal. This is from the latest report from the Quebec Professional Association of Real Estate Brokers. Condo sales up 12% across the province of Quebec in March compared to the same period for 2024. LJ, what are you seeing? Are more people interested in condos? Because I feel like lately you've been saying that condo sales, it was a buyer's market.
I'd say that condo sales are still a buyer's market, but we've just seen a lot more activity than we had for the last 2 years, which was really exciting to see because we're seeing that buyers are re-entering the market, and the reality is most first-time buyers are going into a condo because they're more affordable. So the fact that we're at least seeing that start to trigger the change in the market has been exciting. And, I mean, sales across the board were lit up, to use an expression, right? We saw sales grow by 13% in the Greater Montreal area compared to March 2024, and that was already a pretty good year. So we're seeing a lot more transaction volume. We're seeing prices up across the board as well in all three categories. Single-family homes in the Greater Montreal area were up 8% compared to March 2024. Condos were up 5% compared to March 2024, and multiplexes were up 11% compared to the same month the previous year. So every way we cut this, real estate in the Greater Montreal area is on fire right now, and people are excited about it.
And I think, LG, tell me if I'm wrong, but there's multi-offer all the time now. That's what I hear. Not like as crazy as it was, but still.
We're definitely seeing multiple offers in at least 30 to 40% of transactions right now.
What are open houses looking like? Because the house next door to mine is up for sale, and they had an open house last weekend, and there was a lot of traffic happening. I guess everybody was parking in front of my house, so I was paying attention. But is that sort of standard? Are you seeing a lot of interest for open houses?
I'd say that if we have a home that is priced right, that is a turnkey condition right now, you're going to get a lot of traction, 100%. You're going to get probably north of 10, 15 people at this open house in a 2-hour span. You're going to have people rubbing shoulders together. So it's definitely, we're feeling that again. We're not seeing the crazy bidding wars that we saw back in the day, but I have seen a couple things for go 30, 50, I mean, even in the higher price points, 100 grand over asking.
Do you allow people to come in and visit a property before an open house?
Depends on your marketing strategy.
Because that's how we got my house. Is we went in before the open house. We asked them to cancel the open house. They said no one held it anyway. But we got our house in the end. But
we've definitely accommodated buyers who can't make the open house because they're out of town because of a variety of reasons. We've come in, but to receive and accept an offer and therefore cancel the open house, you're gonna have to come in with a really aggressive offer to make us cancel the open house.
Way over asking.
Yeah.
If you're not sure if now's the right time to buy your first home, maybe you want to get into a condo, maybe you're looking at an investment opportunity, looking for a multiplex. Sales are up. Give LJ a call. He can help you out. 514-500-4040. Still to come, everything you need to know about alternative mortgage lenders. That's coming up on Under One Roof MTL. I'm Robin. That's Fred. That's Martin. That is LJ. The time right now is 12:15.
Under One Roof MTL, hosted by Robin Flynn, featuring mortgage brokers Fred and Martin and real estate expert LJ Aguinaga. Presented by Fred and Martin Mortgages and LJ Realties. This is the Mortgage Minute.
Why would someone use a B lender or alternative lender for their mortgage? This is your Mortgage Minute. Thinking about buying a home, but but you're not sure the bank will say yes? You're not alone, and that's where B lenders come in. These alternative lenders help people who don't quite fit the bank's strict boxes. Maybe your credit's a bit bruised, you're self-employed, or just new to Canada. Rates and fees are a bit higher, but the idea is to get your foot in the door now, then move to a conventional lender later. B lenders aren't forever. They're a stepping stone to help you qualify now and work towards better terms down the road.
You are listening to Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin, that's Fred, that's Martin, that is LJ. We're going to talk more about alternative lenders, but guess what I forgot? LJ pointed out during the traffic break, our trivia question of the week. I know you guys are chomping at the bit. You're salivating. You want your cookies. Our trivia question is brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center at 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. If you think you know the answer, 514-790-0800. Text us and include your name. What is a bridge loan? What is a bridge loan? 514-790-0800. Text us and do include your name. Now, we are going to be speaking about loans and different lenders, as Martin just outlined a little bit in his Mortgage Minute, alternative lenders or B lenders. Fred, let's start with you. Why would somebody consider a B lender instead of a traditional bank?
Well, the first thing come to my mind, if you have credit issue, as Martin says, let's say you had made a proposal or even a bankruptcy, and you have a hard time to go back with a regular bank, a B lender could be a good choice. Or the second thing that comes to my mind, because I did so many transactions like that, if you're self-employed, obviously. Most of the self-employed do not declare enough income. Let's say it how it is. And at the end of the day, they might have a business income of $150,000, but they declare $30,000-$40,000 income. That's why a B lender could come and help you to qualify.
What happens if one of you is self-employed? So, your husband is self-employed, but wife works a traditional job. Would you still need to consider a B lender?
It depends. It always depends. If one has a regular job, is an employee and making $100,000 a year, we might have enough income with that income and the self-employed declare income. But most of the time, why we use B lender, it's because you're alone, and you don't have enough declare income, and we're using the bank statement, the last 12 months of bank statement, to see how much money comes in your business, to verbalize an income to help you to qualify. Obviously, I would like to mention that if you want to make a purchase, you need at least 20 to 25% down payment, which is, people could say, no, if I'm a first-time home buyers, obviously sometimes we don't have the 20% down payment. But most of the time, self-employed do have that amount in their account. It's not rare that someone has, over the years, has built an equity, a saving of $120,000 up to $150,000, and he always declared $50,000 as a real income, and we have a solution for them.
LJ?
And I want to clarify that it's not that they're doing funny business per se here. It's simply that they have their company that is rolling out, that is profitable, that is generating the income. And in order to avoid additional taxation, because they don't need the funds in their day-to-day life, they simply leave the money in the company. And in doing so, some institutions will even allow you to take that income for a different type of financing procedure. But if not, we keep those funds in there. They can eventually give themselves a loan from the company to use as a down payment for their purchase and then pay that back over a period of time. So it's just financial assets that we can use to kind of navigate this process.
And somebody actually did text that in. Anyone declaring $30,000 instead of $100,000 should be charged with tax evasion. But obviously that's not what we're describing here, right, Martin?
No. So let me jump in. This is a short-term strategy. So ultimately what you want to do is you want to get your foot in the door. So if you can't get in the door with an A lender, you're most likely be able to, obviously we have to look at the file. You could probably start off with a B lender, but the strategy is to move from a B to an A. And generally, it's a 1 or 2 year commitment. Yes, there are higher fees. Yes, the interest rate is a little bit higher, but it allows you to get your foot in the door and start building equity by purchasing a house. So within that year or 2 years, what you can do is if you've got a banged up credit score, you start working on your credit score. If your debts are a little bit high, you start to reduce your debts, and you work with your accountant. As LJ said, there's nothing illegal with declaring less income, but if you want to qualify with an A, you're going to have to declare more income, especially if you're self-employed. So at renewal, if you meet the new criteria because you've worked on your financial position, we can more than likely switch you over to an A. And by switching you over to A, obviously you'll benefit from a lower interest rate, and there are no fees when you go and sign for your new mortgage. So it has to be looked at as your foot in the door as a short-term strategy just to purchase your house or get yourself into a house.
LJ, did you have something you wanted to add? Fred, you wanted to add something? I saw hands go up. I don't know whose hands were
No,
up.
I said it. I just want to say that an alternative lender, it's not a private lender. It's a decent interest rate. It's mainly 1 to 2% more than what you could get at a regular bank.
What are examples of alternative lenders? That would be like your home trust, or
yeah, you got it. You got this one right. Home Trust is one of the very popular B lender in Montreal, in Canada. Also, have in Quebec, we have access to Equitable Bank, an excellent B lender as well. And Haventree Bank, like LJ says, yeah.
And you don't have to stay with a B lender forever, because I'm a prime example of that. Like, that was how we were able to purchase our first home. We had a 20% down payment, but we didn't have great credit. So we went with a B lender to be able to purchase our home, which was the smartest thing we could have done, because we bought our home in August of 2019, and things got really, really crazy after that. So we were able to put a strategy in place, as Martin explained, and we moved out of a B lender situation. So
Robin, question for you.
Yeah.
You bought your house in 2019.
Yes.
What's it worth today?
Probably double what we paid for it. I'm happy to share numbers. We paid $290,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a finished basement and a backyard. And our next door neighbor, who has a very similar house but not as well renovated as ours, shall we say, is listed right now for $525,000.
I would
even
say
if
$550,000.
you had to, sorry, LJ. But even if you had to use the services of a B lender, it still has been a sound investment for you.
Yep.
Because look how much equity and look how much your property has appreciated in 5 short years.
Yep.
Or 6 short years.
Yep. It was the smartest decision we ever made. Because at that moment, we had to decide, do we want to work on our credit first and wait to buy a house, or should we just do it now? And we chose to do it now because I'm impatient. But that was probably a good choice, right, Fred?
Yeah, absolutely. Also, another advantage that I see, most of people has hard time to qualify based on GDS, TDS, meaning their income. With a B lender, we could go up to 50% GDS and up to 60% TDS as well.
Oh, wow.
Which is, we could really extend the qualification and really help people to qualify, that's something very, very important.
So what steps should you start taking so that you can qualify with an A lender in the future? You're not quite ready to purchase now, but is there anything that you can do to put yourself in the best possible situation to be able to qualify with an A lender?
You could put yourself on salary with your company, so you're personally declaring a larger income in order to offset that. You can
2 years dividend.
2 years worth of dividends as well is another approach that you could take on it. So you could prepare potentially income splitting with the family, and maybe your partner wasn't working. Maybe they will start taking a salary from the company as well in order to have more personal revenue being declared to make the ratios qualify better.
I also love to say to our client that, guys, start to declare more. Yeah, even though you have a business that's making, decent, good income in your business.
Can you pay salary to your kids? Would that help you in any way?
Anyway, if you pay salary to a kid, you don't pay salary to yourself.
Right.
You pay salary to someone else.
Okay.
What you need to do, you need to increase your income.
You want to make sure you're keeping it to the people who are on title for the property, right?
Gotcha.
So whoever bought the property, if it's yourself and your wife, whoever is on that title, at the time of refinance, you don't want to necessarily have to be adding additional people to make it qualify. So keep the income on the 2 people who are already on title, or 1 person, whatever it might be. And then from there, make yourself build your profile so that the bank will accept it on the A side.
You're listening to Under One Roof MTL on CJAD 800. That's Fred, that's Martin, that's LJ. I am Robin. To find out more about your lending options, get in touch with Fred and Martin. Go to their website, fredandmartin.com. Coming up next, we're going to tell you how to stretch your dollar when you're buying a home in Montreal. That's coming up after the news.
Under One Roof MTL, hosted by Robin Flynn, featuring mortgage brokers Fred and Martin and real estate expert LJ Aguinaga. Presented by Fred and Martin Mortgages and LJ Realties.
You're listening to Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. My name is Robin Flynn, joined in studio by the experts, LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties, Fred Pichette and Martin Spalding of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Right now we're talking about how to house shop without going over your budget. So let's set up a little scenario here, guys. You've just been approved for your first home. You're really excited. You've got 5% saved, and you were approved for a $500,000 mortgage. Should you be looking at houses that are in the $500,000 range? I think I know the answer to that question, LJ.
The reality is if you have 5% saved, you're missing your closing costs. So you are not ready to buy that property, right? We always say that banks will typically require at least 1.5% in savings additional for those closing costs, which include inspection, notary fees, adjustments, CMHC, tax, welcome tax, etc. So no, you're not prepared. You're going to have to either reduce your budget or continue saving until you're in that threshold. Now, we were actually just talking with Fred off air right now that if you do have that amount of money saved up, don't put your entire life savings into one property. I want to get you into properties, don't get me wrong, but I don't want you to be house poor and be stressed if there's any sort of issue with the property, if you need to do any emergency repair, and you don't have access to liquidity, or at very least access to a line of credit or something that you can borrow off.
Also, LJ, 30 days, each 30 days you have a mortgage payment to make. If you don't have anything aside, if something happened, just a bad luck, then you're facing financial difficulties.
Generally speaking, you want to have at least 3 months of buffer, if not 6, in case anything happens, you have to travel, there's a death in the family, whatever it might be, and you are out of work for a period of time. You want to have these savings so that you can make decisions for your family that aren't strictly financially based, and they're really emotional depending on what times you're going through at that point in time.
Now, what do you see in terms of what people are looking for? Do they come to you and say, I want to buy a house in Westmount or NDG or Ville Saint Laurent? Do they already have their neighborhood selected, or are they more willing to branch out a little bit?
It depends. Some people are very clear on what their expectations are. I want to be in this neighborhood because of this school, because of this distance to work, etc. And some people say, LJ, anywhere in the greater Montreal area. And then I say, that's way too broad. So then we start asking kind of pointed questions to understand where they truly spend their time, what's actually important to them, what neighborhoods are going to jive with what they want long term. And then we kind of start zeroing in on those. And sometimes we'll go around different neighborhoods a couple different times and get a better feel for what these neighborhoods have to offer and explain why this neighborhood has these amenities and this other neighborhood has these benefits. And then after you've done the visits, after you've walked through, and after we've had a couple conversations about it, we can really zero in on what makes the most sense for them and then start visiting more properties there until we find the right one.
Martin, what's the best way to actually save up for that house? Because just throwing some money, in a bag under your mattress is probably not the best way to maximize the return on your investment, right? There's so many different account options that you can utilize, right?
Well, we've talked about this before. I mean, you really have to have a plan. And so you don't wake up the next morning and say, I'm going to buy a house. So there are 3 programs that we're very keen on. Obviously, the first home savings account, the FHSA, which allows you to put $8,000 annually to a lifetime value of $40,000, and that's tax deductible, and it will help you with your down payment. The other one is your RRSP. So if you're a first-time home buyer, you contribute to that. It's also a tax deduction, and you're allowed to tap into $60,000 per person. So that could help you along the way. And then there's also the tax-free savings account that if you pull that money out of the account, it is tax-free. In other words, if it's gained in value, you don't pay a capital gains tax. But we've had a couple of young people that have come to us saying, what's the best strategy? And the first question, are you renting or are you living at home? If you're living at home, then make believe that you're actually living in an apartment paying rent. And so make believe that you've got a $2,000 rent payment to make every month and put that money aside so that in 2, 3, 4 years, you've got your down payment. So leverage all the government programs, but also put yourself in a position where, maybe one last sushi meal, maybe one last weekend out of town. And before you know it, you'll have saved up enough for that 5% down payment. I mean, I agree with LJ. I agree with Fred. Just because you qualify for that amount doesn't mean you should spend that amount. Because if you're stretching yourself, and we always come back to the same conversation, remember you got to buy the lawnmower. Remember you got to buy the ironing board. Remember you got to buy dishes. Remember you got to buy towels. Remember you got to buy silverware. And all those miscellaneous expenses that you don't factor in When you don't own your own home, all of a sudden you're confronted by them because you want your place to look nice, and it's going to cost you money. So don't stretch yourself just to get into that house, because you're going to find yourself house poor. And another quick conversation is I was talking to another one of our clients, and she said, yeah, I don't mind being house poor, but I don't want to be so poor that when I invite people over, I can't even afford to feed them.
Yeah. Or have enough mugs to give coffee out, right?
Exactly. or we're sitting on milk crates because I don't have any furniture in the house.
And that first grocery order is expensive too, right? Because you're buying all your condiments and your backstock, your spices. You want to budget for that.
That's crazy.
Plus, we're going into berry season.
Oh my gosh, we are going into berry season. What are we going to do? It's so expensive.
So, Martin, I think I hear you loud and clear. I'm going to have to start giving up that avocado toast.
That's it, exactly. But you know what? I was at the Atwater Market yesterday, and I was really proud of myself because I'm a big corn lover. And so I was buying my vegetables because I barbecue every weekend, and then the corn was just staring at me. And I looked up at the girl and I said, "Where's the corn from?" She said, "The United States."
Ooh.
I said, "I'll pass."
Yep.
Yep, I'll pass.
Yeah, well, corn season in Quebec is like August, right? That's when we get the best local corn. So you don't have much longer to
It looked
wait.
really good, though. It looked really good.
I believe you. Okay, so what else can you do to get yourself in the right sort of frame of mind, the right financial situation? Obviously, you want to get yourself pre-approved for a mortgage before you start house shopping. LJ, you don't even entertain clients who have not yet been pre-approved, right?
So not entirely true. We will not start visiting properties until you're
Right.
pre-approved, but we will 100% have a buyer's consultation meeting to explain to you how the entire buyer process works, make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into, what the costs involved in it. So I'll do an education meeting effectively to see if you're prepared, and if not, put you on the right path to be prepared to start the home shopping whenever that becomes the reality.
And don't be worried that you're wasting anybody's time, right? I think that was something that my husband and I and my friends too are nervous about, is they're like, I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. Maybe I want to keep waiting. It doesn't cost you anything to sit down with a real estate broker or a mortgage broker and just take a look at everything. And at the very least, you can put a plan in place because maybe you're a year closer than you think you are, right, Fred?
Well, you'll be surprised how many times we find solution when we meet with people. At the beginning, they're kind of skeptical that they could be pre-approved for a certain amount. And usually at the end of our meeting says, well, okay, I have a clear idea now. What could I afford? Where to get my down payment? What's the mortgage rule? And it's much more easier afterwards to look for a property in your budget.
Have a conversation
Robin?
with... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Martin.
Oh, can I just jump in really quickly? Because
course.
a lot of people actually go online and get themselves pre-approved in 10 seconds.
That's a pre-qualification, right?
Yeah,
This girl knows.
that
She
is not a
knows.
pre-approval. That is not a pre-approval. That will not hold water. What you need to do, and I hear it day in, day out, because Fred sits next to me, we need to qualify you, support it with documentation. And when you do it properly and we issue a pre-approval letter, it's because we have done the work, we have done the due diligence, and we know if we take your mortgage or we take your loan to a bank, it will be funded. And a lot of time people get really disappointed because they do these online things and go, yeah, I'm pre-qualified. No, you're not. That's not a pre-approval. That's not going to work.
Very important information. If you think that you are ready to start house shopping, get in touch with LJ. If you're looking for a multiplex, we mentioned earlier that multiplex sales are up in Montreal. And you know what? You don't want to handle going around door to door asking for rent. You don't want to be that phone call in the middle of the night because a pipe burst. You know what you can do? Hire somebody to take care of it for you. Give the Plex Doctor a call, 514-709-6397. You can also visit the website at plexdr.com. Coming up, we've got our property of the week, plus the answer to our trivia question of the week. I'll tell you, somebody texted in the right answer. We're going to share it with you after we check traffic. The time right now, 12:45.
Under One Roof MTL, hosted by Robin Flynn, featuring mortgage brokers Fred and Martin and real estate expert LJ Aguinaga. Presented by Fred and Martin Mortgages and LJ Realties.
You are listening to Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin, that's Fred, that's Martin, that's LJ. We are with you until 1 p.m. Still to come, we've got the answer to our trivia question of the week coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first, our property of the week. Where are we headed this week, LJ?
Ooh, we're going extra far this week. Are you looking for a getaway and a smart investment? Welcome to 1716 Chemin du Lac Amico in Sainte-Lucie des Laurentides, a fully furnished Airbnb certified cottage with a proven track record of renting rental income, listed at $640,000 plus tax. Built in 2024, this stylish two-story retreat comes turnkey with modern decor, a gas fireplace, a spa, heat pump, and everything you need to start earning from day one. It's already generating strong income with 5-star reviews and has an established online presence. Whether you're a seasoned investor or new to vacation rentals, this income-producing cottage is your ideal blend of business and leisure. Call now to schedule a viewing or secure your future. To secure your future, or stop by our open house today from 2 to 4 p.m. Nikita will be there to greet you. Now, I don't have a restaurant in particular, but I'm sure there's an amazing casse-croûte right around the corner.
The best casse-croûtes are in the Laurentians. I can
100%.
attest to that. I saw this one on Instagram. Actually, it is stunning. The exterior of this property is so modern with the background of the mountains and the trees. Stunning.
2024 build, right? It just got built.
Question for LG: why it's $640 plus tax?
Because it's commercial property because of the Airbnb rental. Now, again, the reality is if you buy it under a holding company, which is what most people do because you're running a business through it, then you can defer those taxes. You don't have to worry about them. But because we are running a commercial operation, there's GST, PST tacked onto it.
Quick question for you. You mentioned that it is already a 5-star property on Airbnb. When you purchase this property, do you get that person's Airbnb account so that you can maintain the presence on social media, or do you have to start over?
They're transferring the business with it as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you don't have to start all that marketing up from the ground up. You inherit it.
It's super important because they took possession of the property in June. They started running it. The first 3 months had lower revenue because they didn't have the 5-star reviews yet. So you were getting pushed down by Airbnb's algorithm. But now that they have it, they're ranking a lot better. They're getting a lot more bookings. And now the income's really running through.
That's awesome. Good to hear. Where are we going to check this one out? You said the open house is today.
Today, 2 to 4 p.m.
2 to 4 p.m. 1716 Chemin du Lac Amico in Saint-Lucie-des-Laurentides. Beautiful. Beautiful up north. I was just there yesterday in Melille. I absolutely love the Laurentians. They don't have that much snow anymore, to be honest. Usually this time of year, there's still a lot of snow. I was surprised. Not so bad.
We have to wait for the next snowfall. It's
next
coming.
Snowfall. Oh my gosh.
Always in April.
There is, we had that snowfall this week on Tuesday, right? We got 6-7 centimeters on Tuesday. It was gone 2 days later, but
I missed it.
Oh yeah, it's true. You were out of town. Okay, let's get to the answer to our trivia question of the week. It's brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. You can check out their location at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. Maria was the first person to text in the correct response, a bridge loan. What is a bridge loan? It's a short-term loan to cover the gap between buying a new home and selling the old one. Maria provided a lot of information and details, which I know that Fred will appreciate. So Maria, check your text messages, send us some information, and you can be enjoying some delicious cookies from Felix and Norton. I keep seeing ads for Felix and Norton on Facebook and Instagram, and it looks so good. I think I'm going to have to head to DDO to get some cookies. Okay, what did we learn this week? We learned that condo sales are up across Quebec. If you're interested in buying one, give LJ a call, 514-500-4040. We also learned about alternative lenders, something you might want to consider if you have weak credit or maybe if you are self-employed. And we also learned that preparation is key when you are buying your first home. Make sure you don't go all the way up to the top end of your budget because you got to buy a lawnmower. Martin will remind you, you want to get a decent lawnmower when you purchase your first home. That's pretty much it for us for this week. We will be back next Sunday at 12 p.m. right here on CJD 800. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about us and the show, you can go to the website, underoneroofmtl.com, or you can get in touch with LJ, Fred, and Martin individually. LJ, where do people go to reach you?
Go to our website, ljrealties.com, or on all socials, the handle LJ Aguinaga. That's LJAGUINAGA, or LJ Realties, IES at the end. You can also call or text me at 514-500-4040. And if you're looking to free up some of your time, contact my property management company, Plex Doctor, to take over and give you back your time. You can find us at plexdr.com or 514-709-6397.
Fred, Martin, where do people go to reach you?
So if you're looking to refinance, you're new to Canada, you're a first-time home buyer, Fred and I have access to conventional lenders, we have access to B lenders, and we even access to private lenders. Best way to get in touch with us is via our website, fredmartin.com, fredandmartin.com, fredmartin.com.
fredandmartin.com is the website to go to get all the information. Their phone numbers are there, and you can book meetings with them directly on the website, which is very, very handy. If you missed anything, you can listen to the show in its entirety on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And a little bit of a milestone that I haven't shared with the gentleman this week, we just surpassed 1,000 downloads for the Under One Roof podcast, which puts Under One Roof MTL in the top 10% of all podcasts on the internet.
Ooh.
So congratulations, gentlemen. You are officially podcast superstars now. So look it up. Under One Roof MTL is the name of the podcast, and you can find all previous episodes. Everything is there. You can binge listen like a Netflix series. It's a lot of fun. That pretty much does it for us. My thanks to Dario and Master Control for keeping everything on track. My thanks to you for listening. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a great Sunday.